All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 20th episode of Truth Noir. I am just as surprised as anyone else. So yeah, good to still be with you. Joined once again for the second time in a row by Sean Humphries, co-producer of the Rick Shapiro News Hour, coming on directly after this show. So stay tuned for it. It's awesome. So yeah, man, how have you been these many days that have passed?
I'm good. I got hit by a car, whatever, on my bike.
Yeah, man, I'd say that's a thumbs down.
Very thumbs down, but I'll say this: I'm a Viking. You know, It's
a good thing, man.
Yeah, I feel like but I feel like you don't really get tested like this too much in our culture anymore. I guess if you're an MMA fighter, then you're put in that kind of danger. But otherwise, we have nerfed the world, except for the occasional times when a person on a bike gets hit by a car.
Yeah, it seems to be. Yeah, everything is baby-proofed and child-proofed and idiot-proofed, and yeah, I agree with you 100%. The trials in life are of a different kind these days than the normal bumps and scratches.
Well, and what I learned through this whole process is you have to call the cops, get an ambulance, go to the doctor. You have to literally disrupt your life. Even if it's just a minor scrape, you literally have to disrupt your life to see any justice. They make it exceedingly difficult for this. When I talked to the cops, they basically said, "Oh, now it's a business arrangement between you and the other party for me to try to get my computer fixed that was broken."
Right.
And if the other person is a scumbag, they're gonna not want to give you any money. And I'm not quite ready to drag his name through the dirt yet, but he's made himself a public enough figure in the sense that he has a business that's on LinkedIn, and
time to start leaving some bad yelps.
Exactly. So that's my point is, like, he is the kind of person that thinks he is impervious.
Right.
So he can just hit some scumbag on his bike and not ever have to feel any, retribution. I will admit I didn't have lights on my bike, but that is as he hit me with his car. So I don't know.
I think you still trump that one because there's, and correct me if I'm wrong, you might know them better than I do, but the laws that govern bicycles sometimes designate more on the side of being a pedestrian, but then also include actual automotive rules of the road.
Yeah,
so that there is some shared responsibility, but I think that's one where you come out ahead because you also have pedestrian status.
Yeah. So okay, let's say I was doing something illegal, i.e. I didn't have my lights on. That's not a negligent action. The negligent action is he rode over the line and hit me. Mm-hmm. So he did something. He did an action that caused harm.
Okay.
Yeah, where I was just in a state of attracting harm, I guess.
Yeah, called being outside.
Yeah. And so I have 2 years to sue him. So I hope in that course of that 2 years, he is worried every day whether he's going to be served with a summons.
But yeah, my week was fun. Nothing as eventful as that.
Well, you got your 20th, your 20th episode.
20th episode, yeah, but that's actually, that is going on right now.
Yeah.
Ba-doop.
That's awesome. That's exciting. I've never did 20 of anything. Oh, maybe push-ups once.
I probably didn't even get there, man. But no, definitely happy about the 20th. Halloween's coming up. That's always a fun time. So yeah, I wanted to talk about some of the, I don't usually like to pull headlines right from the news, but this whole protesting thing, it's getting me down, both sides of it. And the one in particular that's going on is is like the example is like how in the Black Lives Matter campaign specifically, you have a bunch of people out there saying, well, all lives matter. In like, and I don't know what that's supposed to try to accomplish. Like, it doesn't seem to me to be like technically you're right, but it still kind of feels like a douchey thing to do.
Yeah, it's a linguistic way of diffusing what the movement is about. But I would say that the one thing that white people do, and that we're being kind of, and I'll just say this is I know this is a totally counterintuitive thing, but that we're being held accountable for is white people judge, white people categorize, and white people have one of the reasons that we have dominated the culture for the last few hundred years is because we have a very serious categorization problem where we want to put everybody in nice, neat boxes, you know? And I would say it's kind of this weird thing where it's like if you were to say Chinese people drive bad, well, you know what white people do? They judge and categorize.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's one of the weird things that you could say about us.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah, so that's what I was thinking about in this Black Lives Matter. Is like, I don't want to say it doesn't concern me because I'm a white person, but
true. But I mean, there are some basic matters of like, I don't know, ethics.
Yeah. Well, no, but if we look at the prison population, it is disproportionately minorities over white people.
Yeah, minorities are grossly overrepresented, in that, and then what are you left to think? Like, it kind of seems to me like they want the categorization to be that like, well, people from these races, they just do more bad stuff.
Sure.
And it's very easy to continue to discriminate against people when you're able to manufacture that kind of evidence in statistics.
Well, I would say like, yes, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
If you have the one Italian guy in the Bronx is like, oh yeah, well, some black guys, but they all look the same to me, that in 1850 or whenever that was, then that first lie builds, is the base that builds, basically a kind of an institution of lies. And then what ends up happening is the people that are caught in that matrix, let's say young black men, now are convinced that they are unworthy, or they have like esteem issues because they're born into this prison industrial racist culture where it's like they can't ever get a leg up, and when they do, somebody finds a way to take them down. Like, even like, I'm not saying anything bad about Bill Cosby or even Mike Tyson, but there are white people of those people's stature that are not being held accountable for the same kind of things that those guys have done. It's a privilege.
Yeah, absolutely. And the written court documents are there to prove it.
Yeah.
Like, this is no big secret that is being kept, or at least not well kept,
Yeah.
But yeah, and so it was the kind of apathy towards movements like this and against protesting in general, and the stigmatism that is placed on protesters. Like, it's the stereotype of the violent protester, like, well, every time there's a protest, it gets violent.
Well, that's because when they come to push you off of the public land that you're protesting on, and you don't want to go because you have the right to protest and you resist, the cops find a way of provoking violence. Because even with the Occupy Wall Street, the reason they went to Zuccotti Park is because it was a public park that was the closest to Wall Street where they knew that they could assemble, and it became very problematic for all the powers that be,
Yeah, for anyone looking in that direction.
Yeah. So, it's, and I would say we are living in the shadow of some good from the Occupy Wall Street. So, I mean,
I would say so. I would agree.
Yeah.
And kind of, in spite of itself.
Yeah.
Even despite the fact that it had really very little media coverage considering the duration of the time that it had been going on and is still, right?
Yeah, there's still
certain
people
areas.
there's still people that are using the energy of that movie. I mean, if you really think about it, the idea of the 1% was born in and around Occupy Wall Street. You know, the term had been kind of fomenting, and it was a statistical truth, but the meme of the 1% was born, and to now when you have let's say a Bernie Sanders, whose platform is in essence trying to wrest some of the power from the 1%. You know, that's I feel like that's his campaign.
You know, man, and as bummer of it is to say, like, I feel like any of those guys that were, you know, that were actually true to their word and, like, didn't just say that shit to get elected, like, they all get assassinated, man.
Well, and that's interesting. I would say, I think, this is going to sound weird, but I think we're past the age of assassination, because it was a very powerful tool from, let's say, World War I until they tried with Reagan, but it didn't take, and I think that's when it kind of ended. You still had some stuff going on
And
in other
that's kind of when
countries.
his politics changed,
Yeah.
too, if you notice.
Oh yeah.
That, you know,
Did we ever talk about this? That I think that the United States became the bully that it is the day that Reagan got elected, because
oh, right, because of the hostage
the hostage
crisis.
situation. Did we ever talk about that?
Yeah, I think we did.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like that example because it was like literally one day.
Yeah, yeah, and because Carter, who we'll never really understand how truly great he was because of how he's been maligned by history.
Yeah.
I mean, the reason that there were lines to get gas when he was president is because he wasn't about to get in bed with OPEC and pay OPEC prices for oil. He wanted us to figure out alternative energy, but he was because he wasn't a politician and he was a nuclear engineer, he was being stymied in every possible way.
Right.
And then,
Yeah, and then what did we see happening this term? Like,
yeah,
the same kind of shit.
yeah.
As far as like Congress locking up and like, no, we're just going to do the opposite of what you say.
Yeah, and even Obama's swimming upstream against every and I think it's primarily race. So when you talk about Black Lives Matter, you've got a black president who is dealing with the institutional racism on a personal level and the most powerful office in the land.
Yeah, man. Like, very well put.
Yeah,
Like that's-
thank you. You massaged it
Pulse
out
for
of
that one,
me.
huh?
No, but you
Whoa, whoa,
massaged it
whoa,
out. No, well, in a good way.
But, touche.
No.
But yeah, so I wanted to talk about so what we were starting to get into was the sort of unintended, or maybe sometimes intended, attempts to sort of derail these things.
Yeah.
Just by wording, just by lexicon, you know.
I mean, if you think of Karl Rove, and what is that guy's name? Oh man.
Herman Goering.
Well, but he was the Herman Goering of the Republicans. Oh, I can picture his face. But that they would figure out a way to Frank Lutz. Does that mean anything
I
to you?
think so, yeah.
Yeah. So Frank Lutz was the Republican National Committee's strategist, and he was he's one of the people that would have come up with the thumb point, that kind of stuff, to really kind of confuse the issues with language.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they've been really fucking good at it, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, because I maintain that like people really aren't this like dumb. Yeah, for lack of a better term. I know it's a little coarse, maybe, but
let's think back. I have a theory about that. let's think back to the Reagan era, where public schools and public mental institutions were, all the funding was taken away from them. So from 1980 on, the public schools have not really been able to create good students. They've by accident or by happenstance, have created some good students, but mostly it's a process of constant testing and forcing people into universities so that they get debt. It's not really about teaching people how to think, you know, and combine that with all the homeless people that used to be former mental patients kicked out on the street. I don't think people are stupid. I think that we've had our brains scrambled pretty consistently for the last 40 years.
Yeah, and they've just, it was like the guy in the architect in The Matrix said to Neo, he's like, we've destroyed Eden thousands of times, and we're getting increasingly good at it.
Well, just imagine, like, when you talk about the language that they're using to topple these kind of protests, all these companies, corporations, institutions have unlimited resources and unlimited thought, what are those organizations, think tanks, to be able to address whatever the problem is. And you and I just have singular minds that are being kind of assaulted over and over again by the message, by the ideology, by...
ignorance is strength, war is peace.
And you don't know where to stand, you don't know what to do. Do I forward this Facebook thing? Is it a real thing? What does it say when you know what I mean? Like a couple of years ago, I was just like, well, you know what? I think I'm a pretty good judge, so I'm just going to go and just push my ideas out there and not try to guard them too much. And if I fuck up, I say I fuck up.
Yeah, own it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, man. Protests and people's apathy towards them. I found a good quote that I wanted to read to you guys. And this is by a man named Martin Niemöller, and he was a Protestant priest in Germany before World War II actually started. It was when the purges were going on, and Hitler was just erasing all of his opposition. And so he came a little bit late to the game, and he saw these, groups of people being rounded up and didn't do anything about it because he was like, well, fuck it, it's not me. And so he had this to say about it afterwards, because he was eventually arrested for dissidence and for being dissident and taken to a concentration camp.
Wow. Did he die in a concentration camp?
No, he survived to do lectures and write books about it and stuff. But he said this. He said, first they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the labor organizers, and I did not speak out because I was not in a labor union. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. And then one day they came for me, and there was no one left to speak. I thought that was pretty powerful, man.
It is. That's. I feel like that's one of the most powerful quotes. I would say in history, because it lays out the.
Very simply worded. And like infinitely poignant, I think.
Yeah. Well, and if you're in. And that's the divide and conquer that they want to do. If you and I, as whatever progressive white guys, give a shit about Black Lives Matter, that means it gives it more power and energy,
Right.
And if all the people of color can, or like this is I posted this on Facebook the other day. Trump is alienating Muslims. Women
And Mexicans.
Specifically. Blacks. If all of those people decided to vote Democrat, we would never have to worry about a Republican president ever again. I would say have them vote for Bernie. That's my stance. But even if
Well, he is that like shining star that he's like being put up there to be.
Yeah. Well, but
You know.
if you make less than, I'll just say that, $250,000 and you're a Republican, you're voting against your own economic interests, because they are
Right.
not interested in any kind of entitlements for anybody making less than $250,000. So the way you build up that kind of cachet in our culture is through some of the social entitlements, like through Obamacare or through unemployment or through
Social
Security. Even the post office, which they want to get rid of, is the best way to send things through the mail. UPS and FedEx, they're going to charge you $3 to send the same thing the same different distance.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, so I feel like it's being poor is there's a tax on being poor. When you're poor, you have to pay more for everything else.
Yeah, like how I forget which, I think it was B of A, it collected like $30 billion in overdraft fees,
Yeah.
which basically means they just rooked $30 billion out of people that already didn't have any money.
Yeah, yeah, it's
You know,
it's criminal. And this is the other thing I would say, like during the Occupy Wall Street, is the crazy old guy that said hide your money in the mattress. He was right. The banks, the banks are going to screw you, and it's not like. But I would say it's just a process of being a corporation. A corporation is a mechanism to extract value, and if we're the thing that has the value, it's just going to keep on extracting as much value out of us as it can. No one to blame. It's just the function of that technology, because the corporation is a technology.
Of the dark nature of capitalism
Yeah,
in general.
but just like an AK-47 is designed to mow down people. Like, it's not,
Yeah, like you do.
like you do, it's just a machine. Then that's what that's what the corporation's designed for. That's what an AK-47 is designed for. So when when the Occupy Wall Street thing was going on, I was like, oh, this force, and I'm mostly pro-government, because it seems like even though it's kind of slow and dumb, it actually does edge on the side of the people in general, not always.
Well, and they operate in much more fiscal solvency.
Yeah.
Like, I overheard that, I think it was for the post office specifically, or maybe it was Medicare, but the administrative overhead in Medicare, let's say, was at about 2% or something like that, whereas the administrative overhead for a private corporation is like 15% or something like that. And so they are run more efficiently.
Yeah.
They're run much cheaper. And, the world has had socialized public programs for a really long time, whether they called them that or not. Like free education, compulsory education for kids was the, first and best version of No Child Left Behind.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, the fact that you have to make slogans to make sure that people get educated means that somebody is stealing money from the schools.
Absolutely.
Because that money to make that slogan should have been spent on a student instead of on that slogan. That's all of it. There's so much administrative cost and so much corruption. It's no wonder.
And I think it's similar to the fact that, like, how the Vatican sits on like trillions of dollars of wealth, and they espouse a message of taking care of the poor, and yet they do nothing.
Well,
do nothing
because
for
they're
the poor.
the message of take care of the poor is because they've made everybody poor, and so like that's so there's like, oh, those are our constituents.
I suppose.
Yeah, and there is something very potent and vibrant about being in that kind of crowd. Then I went to some other, God, what was the other protest? I did some Occupy Wall Street stuff. And a lot of it for me is as a social observer, but also to hear the message. And if there is something I can do, I will take a stance. Like the thing I kind of, let's say, internalized about the war protests is if I drive my car, I'm basically contributing to the world that needs to go to war with places that have oil. You know, and I don't know how guilty I feel about that. I don't, is it something that if I went completely oil-free somehow, some way,
Right.
I don't know if my life would gain any more meaning out of that, like people that go vegan, or people that take a pretty hard stance against disposable one-use items or whatever.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of those things are pretty well founded. You know, I mean, there is a sustainability issue with raising livestock versus how much crop, you know, you could plant.
Yeah.
That's not really up for debate. Like, that's true. When you break it down like that, really everyone on the most minute level of their life is responsible for that, because you pay taxes that the government uses to make bombers that murder children and blow up hospitals and shit.
Yeah.
You know,
Which now the new investigation is that the NSA knew that was a hospital, and so it's
there's been a
like,
second one in the meantime. Now.
yeah, and it's like, well, then part of me says, why are we being convinced? And I'd say, like, maybe it has some kind of filter to do with spirituality and Jesus and Buddha and all that. Why are we programmed, especially, let's say, in North America, to believe that there's some sanctity to life? And what I mean by that is, if it is true that we are this kind of emergent, rapacious being, not the individual humans inside of it, but the human race as some kind of like monster eating all the tidbits of the earth and the universe.
The great nothing from the never-ending story.
Yeah,
swallowing everything up.
But do we need to change our ideology to fit actually how we behave as a giant organism, or do we make enough small efforts individually to try to turn the tide to who we believe we really are? That's the deep question, you know, for me.
Well, yeah, and it's definitely a valid one. So, everyone, I want to welcome Rick Shapiro to the detective office here, and he's the main personality behind the Rick Shapiro News Hour, which airs right after this show.
Or actually, the central persona.
Central persona, the most
other
dominant persona.
No, the central one.
Okay.
All the other ones are on the side. Anyone can dominate, which would put them in the center where they are.
For real.
Left of center, that's their problem. Always be center.
I mean, I can't help it to be in the center.
You can't help it?
I can't help it because from this perspective,
What is it, charisma?
you know, guys.
People gravitate around you, that's why.
Because I'm large like a
No,
planet.
because you went to a rally and you felt metastasizing. It coalesced inside you, but you ignored it and called yourself a social observer. When you're really an explorer and a guy who wants to be involved, who is, I mean, you saved me, and I was a poor child from Nicaragua, and you put rice in my mouth before you took a picture of my
swollen belly.
tummy. Yeah. You guys are saying
It's horrible, Sean, the things you do.
You know me.
But I wanted to sit down because I wanted to hear what you had to say, because I was hearing some of it, and I was like, I feel dead. You know, like they're making us, and there's a big they, and everybody uses conspiracy theory in the same sentence means the best they did was go to Harvard. That's the best they ever did for anyone, meaning no one. And because they are making us feel wrong. And more I have friends who can't leave their house. They actually call me up and say, did that ever happen to you? And I say, every day. You know, every day I go out I force myself to go out Well, you know the word that's coming, so I don't have to stutter. I'll use the Americana in my underwear, you know, and I just go, like, okay, that was activity one for the day in this. Look, you saw stuff, right? You have a story, right?
For sure, man.
What did you see exactly?
Are we talking about like UFOs or?
No, what do you feel like you saw? When you use the word saw, you saw a UFO, and did that bang against your so-called soul? Or you saw violence, or you saw God damn it. Is my mother standing behind me? What did you see?
That's an alien that's right behind you in the.
He's
No,
hiding in
He's behind the glass. So he's not
What if the
gonna hurt
real
you.
humor was in the real personal truth? You know, like I blew I can't talk. I slow down. This girl told me in AA. Slow down and talk. I used to sing a song. I blew a senator. Right?
Congratulations.
And he had a picture of his son in military. My wife had her tits ripped off. So I can't think.
We heard about that.
Yeah, somebody ripped off her tits, man.
How is she doing, man?
I don't know.
I'll say this though,
She's
she
great.
looks pretty sexy.
Yeah, she looks hot.
She was wearing an ace bandage tube top, and she had
nice.
kind of like a '70s kind of like beach girl,
Yeah.
kind of like.
The girl hangs out on the side who's cooler than the girl with the tits. And they're all standing around LA like my tits are bubbling. And she's the one girl with the slouch and the tube top standing in the next room who looks like a little touch of Pinky Tuscadero
Oh, that's
and
right.
Ricky Schroeder.
Oh wow, that is a hell of a combination, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen shit. Well, what did you see that hits you hits you hard?
You know, I think my sort of oh shit moment was when.
Oh shit moment. See?
Yeah, man, I had just gotten done reading 1984 when the LA riots happened.
What? It's crazy. I just finished.
And it kind of just made that sort of nexus to me and just solidified it.
that this is the manipulation going on.
Explain
Yeah.
Nexus.
Nexus
Because that's a
is
great choice. That word should be brought back.
it's like
brought to
something
life.
that connects to other things.
Connects. It's a catalyst for other sparks for other fires. It's right before the spark, or it is the spark also. But so when you heard him say that, you're so smart about what you've seen. How did that hit you?
I had just
The
read.
fact that you saw the LA riots and
Well, I was a kid that was out in the riots, you know.
You
So,
said- yeah.
but I had
I
just
see.
read The Prince by Machiavelli, and what between 1984 and The Prince, I feel like that is how you see how power works. Like power works in 1984 in a technological way, and power works in whatever the 1500s in this kind of duplicitous kind of like telling people what they want to hear, kind of, you know. So
Machiavelli.
by Machiavelli, yeah. And when the riots went down for me, I mean, of course, I was living in Long Beach, and I was.
Hold on. Do you hear that? Machiavelli will help you learn how people tell you what you want to hear. And 1984 will tell you what? What did it tell you at the time? Who's in charge? How the people act who are in charge?
I'd also say like how image can hypnotize.
Image hypnotizes. And that's why we all think we're fucking worthless. Whether we think so or not. You're having trouble getting out the door because you believe it. You know it. You're not like the stupid fucking DJ on the billboard who looks like an Egyptian, Saudi Arabian trust fund schmuck. A mouse behind a few discs and lights. And you're supposed to say, I don't have that. I don't have that talent. What good? I'm going to write a book. Next thing you know, I'll be telling myself, hi, my name's Jane. I'm an alcoholic. I always drank and imagined me writing the great American novel. And
As
also
have we
being a DJ in Dubai. Something ridiculous. Who only great men get to be DJs in Dubai. Every comic wants to go to Dubai because every other comic goes because it has gold in those hills, and it's a scam. You go there to blow it up. You go there to cut dicks off, and I mean you cut them off. You bring a pair of scissors and you cut an elected official boardroom barracuda scum swallower, and you cut his dick off. And you say, now I'd like to go visit a theme park. I got more work to fucking do on the kids. And it's not because everybody in this country is Cold Stone Creamery. Everybody is a fat, and fat is good. I'm not talking about good fat, fight fat, Navy SEAL fat, Crow McGraw fat, trucker fat. I'm talking about fucking ice cream that's pumped with hydrogen so your lungs explode. To take that, now take that to a conspiracy theorist, and he'll take it somewhere else, and then we'll take that somewhere else, and I'll be proven wrong because I glamorized it with fucking your own breath.
If I put a tip in your hat, will you sing a song for us?
What does that mean?
From Cold Stone Creamery, if we give them a tip, they all sing a song. Oh, we got a tip.
Yeah,
we
man.
got a tip. We got a tip.
How degrading is that, dude?
They dance for you when
On
you
both sides.
Yeah, man.
You can't win.
Yes. It's like, oh, look at me. I'm so important. I'm giving you
Now
money.
sing me a song, sir.
Sing me a song.
No, they go like, they're almost mocking them, like, I got a tip. I got a tip. You gave me $2. Now what am I going to do? Almost buy a shoe. Almost buy a shoe. They're everybody, and we sit there like, sorry, I should have given her 100. I guess she would have sung a nice, she would have sung the national fucking anthem. And who am I? A guy with that $5, they're tap dancing all in my head over here, like that frog that used to be on TV. I miss that frog.
Phil J. Frog?
No, what is it? The Warner Brothers frog.
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
Michigan
Michigan J.
J.
Frog.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a good one. Hello, my darling. Hello, my baby. Hello, my ragtime doll.
Yeah, that part was good, but
He
the
would just
Warner Brothers
appear.
frog was a joke.
No, but he
I-
they had that time capsule, and they'd open
not
it
that
up,
interesting to me.
and he'd pop out. I don't just because it was like almost like the thing that you would least expect, like having Rick
I
Shapiro
know.
on your
That's like
show.
talking to a
Absolutely.
moron. The frog popping out of the time capsule was almost like, and he ponders it, he pieces it together in his mind. It's almost like, how would Henry Wadsworth, how would Jonathan Swift put it? It's almost like the thing you didn't expect. It's like, so is peanut butter in the back of your fridge. We already know it's a dumb frog that we're surprised he popped out of a thing.
Yeah.
So what's really going on? You were an activist. You went to the Iraq thing. I didn't go. I was busy trying to get the brass ring.
I don't know what happened to me, but my heroes when I was in my late teens, early 20s were Jesus, Gandhi, and Martin Luther King. And I was like serious about that shit. I was like, I felt that those individuals were revolutionaries and that they had
Well, you
way.
knew it. You didn't just
Yeah.
feel it. You knew it.
That they had a way with just their words and their presence of changing the world that they were in.
Because they did.
And because they were
And you saw it.
honest. They had grace. They had true belief,
Grace? Is that grace?
I think it was I think you exhibit grace when you're one of those kinds
Well,
of people.
it's inherent to knowing yourself, to knowing the revolutionaries' way.
Yeah.
But then again, that was the bullshit. Like Malcolm X, he didn't have grace, but he had grace. He was point blank honest. He was rageful. You know, there was charisma in that and appeal, if you want to use those words, because it wasn't, you had no time to get into his appeal. You had to run if he was in the same, I don't know, there's something, I gotta read past page 89 of his autobiography.
But there's also, but this, speaking of protest, it's like now, like even with Halloween costumes, people are saying, oh, you can't wear that costume, you can't wear that one. That's racially insensitive. And it's like, why are we protesting that? Why are we putting any energy into telling children what they can wear? That to me is like, that's the most disgusting form of protest.
Yeah, right.
And like, oh, my tradition wears funny hats, and you aren't allowed to wear the funny hat on my tradition.
Once you start asking why, and you admit that you know why, you know why, then you wear a sign, and I mean it. You take the extra step. You wear a Hitler uniform with a Jew hanging from a thing, and you hold a sign that says, I know this is offensive, but it's only a this offends you. Can't you tell it's a costume?
Yeah.
So carry a sign.
Yeah.
Like instead of saying like we can't, there's the next step, the next quarter inch where you go like, I'm dressing my kid up like an asshole with shit coming out of his mouth and call him Trump. And say and walk through Virginia with that on any given Sunday afternoon. Any given Sunday afternoon. I'm learning how to cohabitate in society.
Yes.
On any given Sunday, you can walk down the street and see a giant asshole with a wig on it, and your grandmother's wig, and it's Donald Trump in a costume. Yeah. I like to mix up everything I say into a bunch of shit. But what did you see? You see violence? What did you see growing up? What did you see at some point in your life where you knew you were going to protest the guy being fired, the student being expelled, but you knew there was something else. You knew you could do more, that there were other things out there. So I like to hear when guys, something caught their eye. When you were 8 years old, did you see, like when I saw people getting beat up, I'd always defend the kid.
I'd say I think one of the ones that sticks out in my mind is the Tiananmen Square. The kids squaring off against the tank. I like that one a lot.
Yeah. And the woman pouring the gasoline all over about.
Oh, the monk, right?
Yeah.
Sitting in the street.
On fire.
Yeah, because what are we gonna do? Like, I like this place here because because of the quickening. The flame goes up, and you go, now I'm gonna go home and write some more, and call it a waste. But there has to be dissenting art. Dissent can be the new consumer addiction.
Damn.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know what, man? I think we're going to have to close on that. We're getting to the end of the hour, so I want to thank Rick Shapiro and Sean Humphries for being on here with me.